One more sleep, another day's travel, and at the end some old new beginnings. It's a wonder any of our survivors can get any sleep. The anticipation, nerves, excitement for what may await them at the end of their journeys. And you know how it is in the wasteland. It's all too easy to find yourself diverted away from your original path. The bridge that was in good repair when you last crossed it now doesn't seem quite so safe. An abandoned building, boarded up and untouched for years. But today, boarded up, crowbar in your pack, and curiosity leads to much more than what seemed to be just another building in a ghost town. Lone travellers on the road can become your best friend or your mortal. One more sleep, another day's travel, and at the end some old new beginnings. It's a wonder any of our survivors can get any sleep. The anticipation, nerves, excitement for what may await them at the end of their journeys. And you know how it is in the wasteland. It's all too easy to find yourself diverted away from your original path. The bridge that was in good repair when you last crossed it now doesn't seem quite so safe. An abandoned building, boarded up and untouched for years, but today, the crowbar in your pack and curiosity leads to much more than what seemed to be just another building in a ghost town. Lone travellers on the road can become your best friend or your mortal enemy. This podcast contains strong language, scenes of violence and substance abuse references, so listen at your own risk. This is Far From Heaven, a Fallout 76 story, Episode 4, All Up in Smoke.
What the? Shit! Fire! Fire! Mary! Mary! Oh God, where are you? Crap. My back's smoldered. The tent. Come on, get moving. Smoke. Mary! Oh God. The supplies. Oh.
Stay down. Not the time to try to be the hero. Move and you'll find my boot on your neck.
Nice work, kid. Let the rest go. Waste of ammo.
Warren, what is this?
Hey, Joel. It's your lucky day. You're coming with us. Nothing? Nothing? No fight? No begging? You really are a soft sap.
Listen, Warren and the rest of you. If this responder is all that Warren said, Dirk ordered him to be brought back alive and in one piece. Might not be the usual way we do things, but they're the orders. He's no good dead or crippled. That means I'll rip off fingers and chop limbs if I find anybody damaging the boss's property. You know he'll be much more creative in punishing anybody who disobeys. Got it? You. Joel, right? Just 'cause I got my folks here keeping hands off doesn't mean we're being soft on you. You do what I tell you, when I tell you. You don't? I know how to hurt people that won't get me into trouble with the boss. Don't give me a reason to show you how. Look at him squirming. Guy's bigger than me, but he's cowering like some timid little mouse. Bind his wrists. Warren, you can babysit right here. Once you've done that, pat him down. I want everything you find on him. You've still got to prove to me that you're a raider again, so I'll be making sure you don't keep something aside for yourself.
We got your girlfriend
No.
here, Joel.
Warren, please. Please, the photo is all I have of her. Please.
See, you haven't lost your tongue. This is definitely going to Forder.
That's everything? Caps, bubblegum, stem packs, photograph. Didn't need the pocket link, but you did the job. Huh. Take a look at this, Sharpie.
Yeah, I know the place. It's Anchor Farm.
You know what to do. Folks, we move out. Forget about the runaways. They can spread the message that raiders are back. Boss wants his medic fast.
You heard him. Better move fast. I don't want to get into trouble because of you.
Warren. Unbelievable. You bastard. Hey, oh, come here. We'll sit here a while, okay, till they're gone. I'm so sorry, sweet pea. He didn't want anything to do with us. Didn't even take the supplies. Oh, no, no, no! The carts! Joel's supplies! Somebody, grab the Brahmin carts. Don't let them get away. I'm going after Joel's bag. It was in his tent. You two, stay here.
Oh, fuck, it's hot.
There's no way I can reach it. Damn it. More fire than 10 now.
Fellow survivors, Vault 76ers, patriotic Americans. This is Lieutenant Colonel Valeria of the New Enclave. Follow our stories as our cast of characters emerge from the White Springs bunker to face an uncertain future in an Appalachia overrun with monsters. But as I always say, the wasteland isn't going to tame itself. Join us here on the Modus Files. We can be found on any Enclave-sanctioned network, including Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and more. Keep your Pip-Boys handy and listen for further instructions. Valeria out.
Hello, this is Charlie Transmutation coming to you with another PSA announcement. No, Charlie, this is a commercial. What? Crap. Nobody told me that. Well, what are you supposed to do in this thing anyway? Well, Charlie, I'm glad you asked. This is the part where we introduce our new homebrew 5e D&D podcast, The Fumbling Four and the Almighty Crit, where we explore the homebrew world of Alteris using homebrew rules and homebrew material from the Dungeon Masters Guild. Sounds boring. I'm out of here. See you later, Charlie. We hope to have you guys come check us out soon. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sharpie, you take over from Warren and mine the responder.
Finally, a break.
Let him drink before we move off.
Oh, Porter! I always wanted a pet. Look at you. Whew. What happened to your face, though?
Ow! Nothing. Nothing you wouldn't believe anyway.
Come on. This squad tells bullshit stories all the time. Me, though, I'm pretty good at telling what is and isn't the truth. Why? I didn't say I was perfect at it. He says some of the fun is finding what the truth is, one way or another. Drink up, sugar. You can tell me on the way. Thirsty, huh? Or smart because you can't be sure when you get more.
So, what happened?
It was an accident in the chem lab. The new candidate didn't follow the instructions.
Dude, if you believe that, you'll believe anything. Come on, Joel. Those are claw marks. I've seen what happens when making chems goes wrong, and that's definitely not it. Go on and smile for me.
What?
Smile. You can do that, right? Humor me.
Oh! Okay.
Ooh, yeah. Eesh. Something got you good. That side of your face doesn't work so well. Only gave me half a smile. Are you gonna give us the truth now, cutie?
Okay, fine. A Wendigo attacked me and my partner when we were out camping. It knocked me over and did this to my face. Tore up my chest pretty good, too. Then I returned the favor by smashing its skull in with a rock. Happy?
Shit. For real? No, that ain't fake. Shaking like a leaf. Oh, come on, Forder. Put in a good word with the boss for me. I like this one. Got a bit of fight in him. Hey, could be fun. Especially if we grab one of the Wendigos alive. It's been a while since we had a good fight night.
You'll be responsible for keeping him and the Wendigo fed. Maybe I can. Only when Dirk has what he needs, which you'll need to speak to him yourself. And if you can't keep both your pets, you could always feed Red to the Wendigo. Just an idea.
No, God, no. Please. Anything but that.
Uh-oh. I'm not sure Joel likes the sound of that.
Oh yeah, hey Sharpie, want to place a bet on Ginger Elvis here?
Okay. How about this? If I can't get him to hurl before we lock him up, I'll give you 20 caps. If you can't get him to cry before then, 20 caps for me.
20. Fine.
So, Joel, Forder showed me a picture of your lady. I thought you'd be more the, I don't know. The kind who wants a sweet little lady. She waits for you to come home, has baked you an apple pie, kisses you on the cheek, and tells you how much she missed you. The whole white picket, cute nuclear family thing. Have to admit, she's got a pretty face, nice smile. Can take care of herself by the looks of her. Yeah, she's a keeper, all right.
Warren, run ahead. Let them know we're back. Take note of anybody who's asleep at their post.
On it.
Welcome home, Joel. What do you think of my friends here? They keep a watch out over that gate for us. You know, 'cause some folks like to sleep on their turn. Ugh. Oh, wow, Kyle. Looks like a bird got your eyes while I was gone. Still sad looking as always. I'd be surprised if I come back and found you smiling.
She really does know the names of every single one she's got here?
No joke. Remember some little detail about them, too. Kyle here. Before the birds got him, he had the most beautiful blue eyes. Those two up there, a couple of twin brothers we found who came from Maryland. Their names are Sam and Roger. So Sam really hated the fact that Erica ended up going out with Roger. Lucky for her, Sammy got them to split up too. It was him running his mouth that ended up with him, and his brother splitting up too. Oh well.
I liked them. You seemed like some really nice, hopeful guys. Had a lot of supplies they gifted to us.
Yeah, I can't remember where we stuck the rest of them.
You're monsters. You're honest-to-God monsters.
We prefer raiders. Please keep that in mind around Porter. Because he actually had someone's tongue out for calling him a monster. But hey, I'm not mean. If I find Gilda, oh, Joel. Warren, what do you think? He's gone really pale.
Joel, buddy, putting yourself over that way.
$20 caps, please.
Hey, Warren, if you got any of those dandy apples I gave you, could really do with a pick-me-up. No? Okay.
All right, you've had your fun. Get him put away, get your sleep. I don't know what Dirk will be asking for once he sees the responder, but we could be out on the road again pretty quickly come the morning. Think fast.
Oh, are you done, Joel? I am only just getting started.
Let's get him locked up. Making me sick just looking at him.
Not just the caps you lost?
Nah. Get up, Joel. Just do what we tell you, alright? Or else things could get nasty. I'm not kidding around.
What?
Shut it and get your ass moving.
Hi, it's Pamela here, and I just want to say thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you really enjoyed the introduction of some of our raiders to the story. Thanks to Rob Burton, the voice of Forder, and Rach Featherstone, who is the voice of Sharpie. And what's a wasteland tale without some raiders in it? You're going to be hearing a lot more from them, and they've done such an amazing job. So once again, like last time, got a shout out for some of my favourite folk in the Fallout community, and again with this one, loads of you will know them, but I think it's fair to say that Joel himself would love them too. So this episode, it's Fenwaterian, and if you love the music in the Fallout games, have been missing live music with lockdown, then Fenwa streams on Twitch 3 times a week at the time I record this, and he plays guitar and sings loads of songs from the Fallout series with some of their more modern and not quite so modern songs in the mix as well, and he is just awesome and supports the podcast. So thanks, Fenwa, for everything that you do for the Fallout community. And once again, we've got another review from the Apple Podcasts. And this one dropped not long after episode 3 was out. And yeah, I just really like this one. I think it was really cool to hear what people think of the writing and just like the overall production of the podcast. So thank you, Dragon Reborn 853. An inspiring story. I love the way the writer tells the story. The characters are very in-depth and really pulling into the world. It's a story I definitely recommend and look forward to hearing more as it continues to unfold. So yeah, thank you so much for that. I'm really glad that you're enjoying how the story is progressing. If you're listening and the platform that you listen to our show on doesn't let you post reviews, then you can easily tweet us with what you think, or comment on our other social media, because it really does all help. And if you're not sure about writing a review, then just say what you think. Really love hearing what you think, and we do read them all. I hope you enjoyed episode 4, and hopefully we will be having episode 5 out the next month.
Welcome to the White Spring Bunker. These halls were built to safeguard some of the most prestigious members of the United States government. Now we are all that remains, though we are always looking for men and women capable of helping us restore what has been lost. In return, we offer this, our refuge from the world above. Please, take your time and look around. We've made great efforts to restore this place to its former glory. Welcome, member, to our little enclave.
Welcome back, members. As always, I am the Operative, your designated tour guide and host here at the White Spring. Team Alpha has returned to the bunker from Atlas, and the new enclave anxiously awaits news from the infirmary on the status of the Colonel.
White Spring Operational Terminal. Medical Log, M9T23. Subject, Lieutenant Colonel Valeria. Status Update. Medical Summary. Dr. Patricia Harefield, Medical Protectron, Gamma India.
Patient was brought to our medical facility suffering from multiple wounds to her extremities, a severe concussion, and a series of deep lacerations to the right side of the face and damage to the right eye socket. Major Lilith refused to leave the Colonel's side during our initial examination. When we attempted to prep for surgery, the Major again refused to leave. We were forced to call on 3 Assaultron units to forcibly eject the Major from the medical wing. Note: logistics staff are still attempting to repair Assaultron units Alpha Delta 6 and Bravo Charlie 9. Our medical bots were able to tend to most of the Colonel's injuries. However, their programming was not fine enough to allow them to address the facial wounds. A deep set of lacerations radiating from the hairline down to the cheekbone compromised the integrity of the right eye and eye socket. Even with my superior skills, we were unable to save the eye and were forced to remove it entirely after the rapid onset of an unknown infection. After completing our work, the patient was moved to recovery in the small ICU facility, and we expect her to regain consciousness shortly. Modus has presented us with an option to replace the patient's right eye with a custom robotic optical unit. Although this was experimental technology pre-war, Modus appears confident that a replacement can be crafted in the production facility and be ready for implantation within a few months. Prognosis. Despite severe injuries, the patient should recover fully. Physically. Note, quite frankly, I'm surprised the Colonel survived the trip back to the bunker. How she recovers from her injuries? Well, only time will tell.
If it doesn't, Hi, I'm Fire Writer, and I'm the host of The Pixel People, a podcast dedicated to taking a close look at our favorite characters from our favorite video games. From major characters who define the course of a game's storyline to smaller characters who you might have never noticed. Every week, we go beyond the quest line to examine a particular character's story arc and choices, and discover the real-world parallels and life lessons hidden just below the surface. I hope you'll join us. You can find the Pixel People on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you listen to podcasts.
The doctor said that the colonel was out of surgery. It was a close call. Fortunately, they couldn't save her eye. I wonder how she's going to deal with the news when she wakes up. A miracle she made it this far all the way out to the bunker without dying. Maybe like her mind said, she's too damn stubborn to die. It took some convincing, but they let me into the observation room. They couldn't say when the colonel would wake up. Could be a while. Could be days. Weeks. I feared months, but that was highly unlikely. She looks like hell, though. Bandaged to the nines. The Stimpaks helped, but we all know that they can't fix everything. Surprised that creature didn't take her head clean off. Those claws did real work on her face. She'll have scars to show for it, that's for sure. Lilith came in not long after. She had something behind her back. I couldn't really see what it was until she got close next to the bed. And there I saw it. Little teddy bear placed under the colonel's arm, and Lilith's hand put on Val's head. Just when I thought I figured her all out, the so-called monster surprises the hell out of me. The Major's been propped up in the chair in the corner ever since. She's barely left the colonel's side since all this happened. Lugged that power-armored behemoth all the way back to the White Spring, too. Managed to keep her from killing him, though I know she wanted to. It's probably a good thing the guy was out the entire time. I heard he finally woke up. Tough bastard. Managed to dent one of the Protectron before they got him into a holding cell. I'm getting a sense of deja vu just thinking about it. Hasn't said much. Modus is keeping him on ice until the colonel's able to talk to him. I'll see what I can do about keeping Lilith distracted. Knowing her, I don't need her to getting antsy and breaking something that shouldn't be broken. But thinking about it, just how the hell did I end up right back where I started? Being responsible for people again. Do I even want to do this again? Just walking these halls bring back memories. Some good, a lot not so much. Of course, to me, these memories are still fresh in my head. 16 years, they keep on telling me. 16 years of lost time. 16 years of lost people. President Chucklefucks, he was no great loss. Maybe if he hadn't had such a hard-on for the nukes, things might have been different. I can't say any of us were saints, though. We all did our fair share of the field work. But we really were trying to do the right thing. And then, amongst them all, there was Molly. God, she was such a pain in my ass. Knew her ever since we were recruits. She was competitive as hell, too. Never let me live it down a single day we were together that she beat me out of my record on a McClintock obstacle course. I swear to God she cheated, but I could never really prove it. She already knew she was getting assigned to the White Spring. Her dad, real hard-ass general, was getting posted and pulled the necessary strings. At the time, none of us really heard what the Enclave was. We all thought it was Free States propaganda. But when I had been assigned here too, crash course was an understatement. Not to say everyone bought into the program. Private Jimmy, there was a real hothead and a little bit of a hippie too. He disappeared one night after expressing some discourteous views about the new assignment. A couple others got reassigned. Heard Samson ended up on an oil rig somewhere, but since we lost connection with them, honest to God, who knows? There was a lot of talk in the bunker after the war. Maybe some of it was true, maybe some of it not. I wasn't getting paid to listen to gossip. I just had my job to do. Found out later that Molly had pulled some strings of her own to get me this assignment. I was supposed to have gone to Chicago, some other Enclave facility out there. After all that, then the war, Molly managed to get the nerve to tell me how she felt. I don't think her father ever really approved of me. Then again, he died a few years later, dropped dead of a heart attack. I keep on thinking that he was probably the lucky one. That led Santiago getting promoted, and what came after. Molly started really souring on things after her dad died. I mean, we still loved each other, to a degree. And then we found out she was expecting. We had more than a few arguments over field assignments. Maybe she wanted to keep me safe, but I found being outside a lot better. I never really had a problem with the work we did. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Though, maybe we should have tried to help the people more. There was a lot of crazy shit going on out there. But orders were orders, and we had to stay under wraps. We'd been arguing that morning. She heard about some experiment Chucklefucks wanted to run. She said she didn't want to raise a daughter in a place where they just wanted to start the war all over again. I hadn't known the sex of the baby. I guess she was going to surprise me, but instead we were yelling at each other like children. That was commonplace too, and a few of the officers always turned their heads after we were done with the argument. Later that day, I caught sight of Santiago in the hallway. I hadn't seen her in forever. I knew she was confined to the quarters, something down in medical. But it was her all right. Her officers, and then I saw Molly with them. It didn't take a genius to see that they were out for blood. You could see it in their eyes. Tried getting her attention, but Molly just glared and walked away. The major, he got into my face and made it clear I had a choice to make. They were arresting Eckhart, putting an end to everything, including Modus. What a stupid idea, I thought. I knew enough about the AI that he wouldn't take it that well. Maybe he'd be fine with getting rid of Chucklefuck, but blowing him up? That wouldn't end well. I had to do something. Not just me or Molly, but for our daughter. I ran down to the server room, and I found a couple of the Major's men finishing up the charges. I wasn't... Damn it all to hell if I wasn't forced to kill them. I didn't want to. They had no idea what they were doing. I could hear the coup going down over the intercom. I heard Molly yelling at Eckhart. If I didn't love that lady. Hard head. But her heart was always in the right place. Had to get those charges disabled. Maybe, just maybe, we could have had a chance. I could tell those army pukes had no idea what they were doing. They placed the explosives in flashy spots, not in the right ones. They started cutting the wires. Then, darkness was the last thing I remember. After I woke up, Modus wasn't entirely clear on what happened. He did say everyone died. Chucklefucks, the good guys, the bad guys. Molly, our daughter, all dead. And here I am. It's a new enclave, led by a girl not too much older than what my daughter would have been. Maybe it's a chance to fix the mistakes of my past. I bet Molly would want me to do something after, instead of just rolling over and dying. Seeing the Colonel there, and Lilith by her side, maybe it's just a life worth living after all. Molly, wherever you are, I just hope you and our daughter are looking down at me and watching. I miss you every day.
Long gone are the days where people sing about West Virginia as almost heaven. After nuclear war and disease, it's far from heaven now. Far from Heaven, a Fallout 76 story podcast, is a tale of survival, conflict, and hope set in the Fallout 76 game world. Join our survivors on their journey to reach that almost heaven once more. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and many other great podcasting apps. Far from Heaven, a Fallout 76 story, available now.
Where am I? I struggled to open my eyes. Everything was so fuzzy, and I realized I'm only seeing half the picture. And I can't see anything on the right side. It feels like my head is full of cotton balls. I reach up with my hand and run my fingers along the side of my head. Most of my hair has been shaved, and there are bandages covering half of my face. I'm in a hospital. Well, some kind of medical facility. An Enclave medical facility. I can see the Modus terminal across from my bed. Blank now, but surely watching over me. Looking around as much as I can, the room is as Spartan as I would have expected. Until I glanced to the left, and there, propped up in the corner, sleeping in what looks to be a very uncomfortable chair, is Lilith. Boy, she looks like hell, which for her is really saying something. My throat is dry and my lips feel so chapped. I have no idea how long I've been here, and everything before is so much of a blur. I know I'd been on a mission, but beyond that, I can't remember anything.
Our patient is finally awake. Welcome back, Colonel.
It's Dr. Harefield. The name slowly bubbles up as the older doctor walks into the room, carrying her notepad and a pen tucked behind her ear. Doctor, what happened?
You gave us quite a scare, Colonel. You've been unconscious for about a week now, but your vital signs have only been getting stronger and you're well on the road to recovery.
I bring my hand back up to my face.
Oh, that. Unfortunately, while most of your wounds weren't as bad, you suffered a severe slash to your face. There was a pretty nasty infection that set in, and although we tried, we couldn't save your eye, and it will take a couple of weeks for the wound to close fully.
I must have gasped audibly.
I know it sounds bad, Colonel, but Modus already has a solution. He's working on a robotic replacement eye we'll be able to implant in a couple of months.
What? A replacement?
Oh yes, some wonderful technology left over from an old pre-war DARPA project. Modus believes it will be even better than your original. And I'm sorry, Colonel, we did try all we could. In fact, if it wasn't for Major Lilith and the Sergeant, you might not have made it back at all. They helped carry you back all the way from Atlas. I'll tell you, they really changed the opinions of some people around here. Word is, Stein threw you on his back, shot and carved his way through the nest of ghouls, and got you to safety before radioing for assistance. Before the extraction team arrived, he had patched you up the best he could, and Lilith never left your side the entire time back to the bunker.
I could hear the awe in her voice, which was certainly a change from the previous conversations about Lilith and Sergeant Stein.
And that wasn't all. I guess you weren't alone down there. The Major also brought along another civilian, though by the looks of the power armor he had, we have our own doubts that he's ordinary by any stretch. We also haven't located any records of him for being from Vault 76 either. We might just have a real out-and-out survivor on our hands.
This news, well, and the medications I'd been given, left me speechless. The doctor poured me a small cup of water and helped me take a drink from it.
Here, Colonel, this should help. And yes, I also heard that it took several men to keep Lilith from taking this man's head off. I guess he was part of whatever happened down at the observatory. He was also unconscious when the team arrived. With your injuries, there wasn't time for a thorough interrogation, and he's been cooling his heels down at the brig since you both arrived.
That will be all, Doctor. The Colonel requires rest. and there will be sufficient time later for a full briefing.
Sorry, Modus, but I can say that the Colonel's recovering quite nicely. Let me just take a few last readings here, and I'll leave the two of you to talk.
Colonel, it is a pleasure to see you awake. We were concerned, and your loss would have been a tremendous disappointment.
Which is about as close to showing emotion as Modus could ever get, but I could appreciate the sentiment.
We will let you rest now. However, we do wish to discuss these new developments with you, once you are up and moving about.
And the screen flickered off. I lower my head again, laying it on the pillow behind me. I was a jumble of thoughts and emotions. At first, I tried to sort out the memories I had. Slowly, pictures were coming together, but they were still unclear, disjointed, and at this point, nonsensical. I seemed to remember some kind of explosion, but before or after, the memories don't fit together. There's a teddy bear under my arm, one I'd had in my room. I look over at Lilith, still slumped in the chair, but now her eyes were open, staring at me. I swear, I saw what could have been a smile, and I mean a real one, not the kind I'd seen over and over before and after a fight, but something else. And as tired and worn as I was, and maybe just a little broken too, I smiled back. I have never been so humiliated in my life. Major, you know perfectly well that I can walk. Tooling me around in this wheelchair is completely unnecessary. And would you please stop with the giggling? The two of us must make quite the pair. Me, stuck in this godforsaken wheelchair, still bandaged to the hilt, and Major Lilith, decked out in a freshly laundered and pressed uniform. Of course, she's still got that ridiculous haircut and face paint. Well, we call it face paint in polite company. And I have no idea where she found it, but she's wearing one of those little nurse hats as well. Oh, and that damn giggle.
Doctor's orders, Val. You're not supposed to be up and around for a few more days, so you just better be glad Modus gave you permission to go see the prisoner.
I scowl, sinking down in my chair, because I know she's right. It was just a few days ago that I even regained consciousness. Everything still hurts, some parts more than others, and I purposefully asked the doctor to start cutting back on my pain meds. And losing my eye, well, that was the worst. At least Modus offered a replacement, but with any tech, I'm going to see it for myself before I allow someone to wire it into my head.
Oh, Val, you can't let the little things get you down. I mean, you're still here. And hell, the fact that you now owe me one was worth all that pain and aggravation of hauling your ass back here.
Owe you one? If I hadn't stepped in, you'd be the one in a bed, or worse, on a slab. And from what I heard, Stein was the one who carried me most of the way. What were you thinking? I mean, attacking someone in a power armor suit with your bare hands? Yeah, I could tell that hurt. Her grin disappeared and she looked a bit pained herself.
That's not fair, Val. He started it. I was lucky that scout armor absorbed most of it. That sledge of his also packed quite the wallop. But I wasn't going to let some tin can get the best of me. You would have been better off letting me have him.
Oh, yeah. Well, next time when you decide to mix your explosives, please try to remember which ones are Nuka grenades. We'd been through this before, when I was finally able to put the pieces back together and have a very pointed conversation with Lilith. Such a screw-up that put me in the hospital, blew a house-sized hole in a vital installation. But maybe, just maybe, gave us a bit of a silver lining in all this. So, here we are, the field commander of the Enclave in Appalachia, and a bit of a science experiment who just happens to be my best friend and almost sister, going to see our prisoner. And damn, these bandages itch like hell, so he better be in a talking mood.
It doesn't.
Hello, this is Jolly Transmutation coming to you with another PSA announcement. No, Charlie, this is a commercial. What? Crap! Nobody told me that. Well, what are you supposed to do in this thing anyway? Well, Charlie, I'm glad you asked. This is the part where we introduce our new homebrew 5e D&D podcast, The Fumbling Four and the Almighty Cray, where we explore the homebrew world of Alteris using homebrew rules and homebrew material from the Dungeon Masters Guild. Sounds boring. I'm out of here. See you later, Charlie. We hope to have you guys come check us out soon. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It doesn't.
After sitting idle for years, the brig at the Enclave bunker had seen a revolving series of prisoners brought in for interrogation. It had taken several weeks for Modus to reactivate the facility, cleaning the dried blood and remains from the time of the original Enclave, but its use had already paid dividends and extracted information. Lieutenant Colonel Valeria very much appreciated one of their more recent recruits, a Dr. John Harker. A former Vault 76 resident, he had been an FBI profiler and trained coroner before the war. While he didn't have the opportunity to practice his trade in the Vault, now as a member of the new Enclave, he was proving to be an excellent interrogator. His grandfatherly appearance belied a certain ruthless intellect. Modus also found him to be a reasonably proficient chess player, which, coming from one of the most advanced AIs in the world, was quite the compliment. His techniques were mainly psychological, but when pressed he could deliver physical persuasion just as impactful as anything Lilith could accomplish in the field, if maybe not quite as bloody. The two of them, though in certain ways kindred spirits in the art of persuasion, constantly found themselves at odds, especially when Dr. Harker had to play cleanup after Major Lilith returned with the prisoner she had been toying with. In his mind, it made his job harder and necessitated him playing more good cop than he was fully comfortable with. The Colonel had been forced to act as a referee on more than a few occasions, though as time went on, Major Lilith was assigned to operations and interrogations which required less subtlety, mostly in the field, while the good doctor could practice his art on subjects brought back by the other teams. While not the most ideal situation, it did reduce friction. Rounding the corner into the brig, Dr. Harker was busy, heads down on his terminal, updating his latest case notes with prisoner updates.
Good morning, Dr. Harker. Sorry to bother you, but we're here to see prisoner A105, please.
The doctor looked up from his terminal, smiled at the Colonel, and frowned at the Major.
Good day to you too, Colonel. It's great to see you up and about. I hope everything is healing satisfactorily?
It's fine, but my face still itches like you wouldn't believe. But as soon as I can convince Modus that this abomination of a wheelchair is no longer necessary, I'll be right back to work. How have things been here?
Oh, the usual, for the most part. Field operations being scaled back since your injury. We've been pretty quiet around here. Of course, our guest down in number 4 hasn't said all that much, and Modus asked that we provide the white glove treatment until we could learn a bit more about him. No reason to act like savages if we don't need to.
Has he said anything at all? Any idea where he's from?
Well, he said very little. He said he only wants to talk to the commanding officer. Funny thing, though. He did say something interesting a few days ago. He asked if there was a Colonel Santiago around here.
And with those words, the Colonel abruptly sat up from the wheelchair.
What did he say, exactly?
Colonel, I was attempting to ask the subject questions, which he answered in only the most general way, revealing not much of anything. But when we got to the end, he asked me when he'd get the opportunity to meet the CO of this place. I told him that he would meet the Colonel eventually, and his eyes lit up a bit when I said that. And then he asked if Colonel Santiago was around. When I told him no, he shut down again and refused to answer any other questions.
Being relatively new, Dr. Harker hadn't received the full briefing on the history of the Enclave before Reclamation Day. He didn't know what happened to the previous bunker residents, and definitely not about Colonel Santiago and her attempted coup against President Eckhart. And now was not the time to start a detailed discussion about the past.
Doctor, I'll want to speak with the prisoner right now. Please have him brought down to interrogation room A. The Major and I will question him alone.
Colonel? Are you sure that's wise? I mean, we've been hands-off up to this point. If you're intending to...
No, Doctor. I just want to ask him some questions. I want the Major there solely because she was the one who made first contact with the prisoner.
Well, I mean, I still want to wring his scrawny little neck.
Enough of that, Lilith. We're here to be productive. If you can't control yourself, then I'll wheel myself in there and you can stay with the doctor.
The Major looked down at the Colonel, and then back up to Dr. Harker, who had a smirk on his face.
Okay, Val. I'll behave.
We'll wait in the interrogation room, Doctor.
Major Lilith pushed the wheelchair down the corridor, tilting her head back and sticking her tongue out at the doctor before rounding the corner to the interrogation wing.
Lilith, you'll have to do a better job of controlling yourself, at least here in the bunker. You've earned a bit of goodwill here with the staff. Don't squander it.
I just can't stand that know-it-all. He really gets under my skin. Doesn't approve of my methods, even though I get the best results. He's just an old fart.
That old fart is still the best interrogator we have, present company excluded. And he gets the job done when we want to make sure the person of interest stays in one piece. Understand? It's bad enough I have you escorting me around, but you're not making this any easier. My sutures itch like the dickens.
When they reached the interrogation room, Major Lilith helped the Colonel into a padded chair across from a small nondescript table. Modus would be recording everything, so there was no need for paper, pens, or pencils. This was going to be strictly a question and answer session. The Major settled into another chair in the corner, resuming her normal fidgeting. Colonel Valeria spread her hands out on the table, focusing her thoughts. Their prisoner would be in shortly, and then it would be time to find out exactly who he was, how the hell he turned up in Appalachia, and whatever else they needed to know. As far as they'd known, the Scorched Plague wiped out everyone in the region, and yet here was a survivor. It was time for some answers. The electronic lock buzzed briefly before clicking open. The door slid upwards as Operative Jones and Private Thomas walked into the room, followed by their prisoner. The Colonel looked him up and down, as she had been given a description of the man, but now seeing him face to face, she could get a better appreciation of him. He was an older man, probably in his late 50s, maybe early 60s, but built like an old football linebacker. His former scraggly beard and long hair had been cut down to more of a military style, and with his bearing, it raised further questions as to his history, and raised an intriguing possibility. He looked first at Major Lilith, giving her a hard stare before settling on the Colonel. His expression changed from hard to slightly bemused. Private Thomas pushed him from behind towards the table and chair set up for him. The prisoner stumbled briefly and grimaced, but stood back up ramrod straight and walked directly to the chair and sat down, placing his cuffed wrists on the table.
You may unshackle the prisoner.
Are you sure about that, Colonel? He could be dangerous.
The prisoner perked up when they mentioned Colonel, but looking back at Valeria, he appeared confused.
I'm very certain he's dangerous, but I believe he's the right kind of dangerous. And anyway, I have the Major if there's any trouble to be had. She can certainly handle it. So let's be clear. Unshackle the prisoner.
Colonel my ass.
That's Lieutenant Colonel Valeria Faustina to you. I suggest you show a bit more respect to an officer, Sergeant.
The prisoner's mouth fell open as the Colonel caught him off balance with her pointed and accurate remark, and the Major even raised a brow of interest.
How did you... I mean, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's obvious to anyone who knows military bearing, soldier. You're Army through and through, and my father taught me enough to recognize a battle-hardened sergeant when I see one. So let's cut the act, shall we? While I might be a little on the young side to wear this rank, I assure you, It was well earned. And in the wasteland, we need every good soldier we can find. And for what you did at the observatory, well, you saved my life. For that, I owe you. And if we can get over these trust issues, I believe there might be something for you here.
Trust issues? Holy hell. First that lunatic over there attacks me, then blows everything up, and I find myself here, wherever here is, in a cell with a bunch of idiots asking me questions I have no intention of answering. I answer to my CO and the legitimate chain of command, period.
Oh, I like him.
Let's start again, Sergeant. I want us to get off on the right foot. And quite frankly, you have information that we need, skills which can prove invaluable, and if we can find a way to work together, I believe this can be a win-win situation. First, let me introduce myself properly. I am Lieutenant Colonel Valeria Faustina, Field Commander of the new Enclave in Appalachia. We are the properly reconstituted government in the region, and I am responsible for all field operations. I was also a former member of Vault 76. Over there is Major Lilith Alistair. As you've already met her informally, let's make this the formal introduction. She is my second in command. As you've seen, a bit on the wild side, but she is an invaluable asset to this organization. And this is the White Springs Bunker Complex, and our base of operations. The rest of the details we can fill in later. But first, who are you?
The prisoner carefully considered his next words. In his years, both before the war and long journey afterwards, he was a shrewd judge of character. Rarely could you take anything at face value, nor should you, especially in these times. But he had to admit, with all the crazy stuff he dealt with over the years, and this was no crazier, and in fact, maybe even a whole lot less, that perhaps he may just have ended up in the right place after all.
Fair is fair. I am Sergeant Major Edward Muller, 8th Battalion, 2nd Infantry. Or at least I was, years ago. But if your father taught you anything, you know that once a soldier, always a soldier.
Well, Sergeant Major, it's a pleasure to meet you. Well, officially this time.
Huh. Who would have thought?
And sorry, I meant no disrespect, Colonel. You can just imagine an old soldier, such as myself, seeing, well, a child being in charge of anything. When we had our little meet-up at Atlas, I had no idea. I'd been hiking around Appalachia for a few weeks, and I didn't think anyone else was left alive. Well, except all those things running around.
Oh, we call them the Scorched. We're dealing with a pretty nasty plague here, Sergeant. It's a miracle you weren't killed. Well, maybe not a miracle, and definitely a testament to your skills. So, that's the who. But what the heck have you been doing for the last 25 years?
Well, Colonel, that, as you can imagine, is a long story.
As the Sergeant Major laid out his tale, starting all the way back outside of Washington, D.C. in 2077, Modus was recording each and every word. He had already cross-referenced the available U.S. Army records in his database to identify one Edward Muller. He was, in fact, the Sergeant Major of the 8th Battalion, 2nd Infantry Brigade, stationed under the command of Colonel Santiago outside of D.C. right before the Great War. The picture on file was 25 years out of date, but using his advanced capabilities, Modus could extrapolate, with a 99.8% certainty that the person in their interrogation room was, in fact, Edward Muller. His service record was impeccable, with honors and citations from the Canadian annexation all the way through the liberation of Anchorage. In fact, Colonel Santiago herself requested his assignment to her brigade after his tour in Alaska was over. Of course, there were no records after 2077, so Modus could not verify the other parts of his unfolding story. He also could not reconcile the data provided by Colonel Santiago when she arrived at the White Spring with her brigade. She had stated that she had only lost 5 men during the trip from D.C., but instead it appears that she either lied or omitted the fact that an entire battalion, the 8th, had gone missing. There was a large amount of data to process. Modus had been unable to learn much about the area outside of Appalachia, much to his displeasure. The loss of connection to the other Enclave bases was unfortunate, and the Kovac Muldoon satellite was in geosynchronous orbit above the region, with limited ability to provide data from the outside. If Edward Muller was able to and willing to fill in some of the gaps, in Modus's view, it would be well worth the time and energy invested. In fact, Modus believed that the Colonel felt exactly the same way. While it was unfortunate that such a valued member as the Colonel had been injured, If that injury resulted in obtaining the kind of vital information he needed, they both felt it would be worth the cost. Muller's story went on for hours, so much so that the colonel ordered both lunch and dinner to be brought in, and even Major Lilith was rapt by the tales being told. After a few hours, during a short break, Lilith walked over to the colonel and leaned down to whisper in her ear.
Hey, Val, I like this guy. He's got teeth.
Which was her way of saying, perhaps, she wasn't going to defile his corpse and eat him. The colonel even forgot about her bandages and the itching. Such was the flood of information Sergeant Mueller was able to provide. But even she needed to take a rest. But first things first.
Sergeant Mueller, thank you. We'll have to continue this tomorrow, if you don't mind. But I believe we can provide better accommodations for you. Modus.
The screen in the corner of the room sprung to life with the familiar face of their resident AI.
Yes, Colonel. What can we do for you?
Would you be able to provide our guest with a room in the residential wing? I believe he needs a shower, some new clothes, and certainly some rest.
Yes, Colonel. We would find that acceptable. We will send a Protectron to escort our guest to his new quarters.
Is Modus always so accommodating?
He is a bit of an acquired taste, but he's the real deal. And just wait until you see all the toys he's got for us to play with.
With a bit of effort, the colonel rose from her chair, reaching across the table to shake Mueller's hand. Instead, the sergeant major snapped to attention, issuing his first real salute in 2 decades. Valeria returned the salute, then re-extended her hand. This time, the sergeant took the hand that was offered.
Welcome to the Enclave, Sergeant Major. God bless America.
Despite the setback at Atlas, the new Enclave endures and grows stronger each day. Wounds will heal and scars will be worn as badges of honor. Our cast of characters will continue their mission to tame the wasteland, encounter new mysteries, and discover that the monsters of Appalachia won't go down without a fight. Thank you again, members, for joining us here on The Modus Files. If you've enjoyed this content, please subscribe, and better yet, please leave a review to help others find our little enclave. You can also follow us on Twitter, @ModusFiles, for more information about our podcast, Fallout 76 content, and random musings of the Enclave. I'd also like to thank our growing cast, Mandy Marie B. as Lieutenant Colonel Valeria, Lucy Middleton as Major Lilith, Exo-1 King as Sergeant Stein, Aaron Foster as Private Thomas, Aaron McNamara as Dr. Harefield, and Brad Williams as the voice of Modus. We'd like to thank the Mr. Jones Show for providing our podcast cover art. You can find him on Twitter @BlankenMedia. And a shout out to the Apocalyptic Aristocracy Discord, home to a great group of fellow creators, the Robots Radio podcast community and the rest of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, and Jeremiah Johnson, our favorite character artist, who provided the wonderful character artwork you can find on our website. Lastly, thank you to all of our subscribers and supporters. God bless the Enclave, and God bless America.
Members, we look forward to your next visit to our little enclave.
You're listening to the Red Diamond Courier, an Elder Scrolls podcast. Here are your hosts, Bob Chichinski and Dog Bark 24.
Welcome everyone to episode 60 of the Red Diamond Courier. I am here with you as always, Bob Chichinski, with my good friend Dog Bark 24. My dude, how you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great as well, my man. Definitely glad to be here. Feel like it's been forever since we recorded, but definitely feels good to be back here in the courier shop once again.
Yep, especially since we're doing an awesome DLC.
That's true, yes, and a full appropriate episode, and our first of the DLC dungeon little episodes. We're done with base game dungeons for a Dungeon Guides episode. So we're moving on to the first DLC dungeon pack that came out, which was a part of the Imperial City DLC. It was not only 2 dungeons, but it also brought the Imperial City PvP, like PvP slash PvE kind of area that you could travel into, and it's now its own campaign that you could just queue into. And then it also came with these 2 dungeons that we're going to talk about, which are Weigel Tower and Imperial City Prison. And those are, it's actually the first DLC pack that came out after the game released on console. So technically, Craglorn was a DLC for PS or for PC after it first came out. Then it releases on console with Craglorn already, and then Imperial City comes out. So I believe it was around November when it first came out, and it also increased the cap, the level cap from Vet 14 to Vet 16.